position you took and how you presented it, because I think it's very rare that we see what you gave us today, and it shows to us, at least to me it did, that studying or investigating the metaphysics or phenomenology of existence, but particularly of Black existence, is not just a theoretical exercise, but it has a very pragmatic component to it, and it's very real. So thank you for doing that, and I know it just was there, but it's something that I think demonstrated to us and put it right into our face, how real it is and how your research matters. But in that context, you were talking about, okay, there's the philosophical part, and there's also, you work as a mentor, right?
Yes.
So that's where I see how your work is really in Black studies rather than just in philosophy. I wanted to ask you, do you focus in your work particularly on males, on Black males, or are you focusing on Black people in general? And who are the people you're looking at? Is that a particular group within Black populations? Is it diasporic? Is it African American, and so on? And I was immediately thinking of, when I think of the pragmatic part, I was immediately thinking of John Head. I do not know and how far you're familiar with his work on Black men and depression, and how to break the chain of hurt, of pain. And he was here, spoke here a few years ago. But that's somebody who I immediately thought of. And then on the other end, with philosophy and phenomenology, I was wondering, who are the scholars that you are engaging? Are you looking at or distancing yourself maybe even from Charles Johnson, who in the 1970s, I believe 1977, had Being and Race, which was a really fundamental study on where he explored the metaphysics of race. It moved away from Kant. So I was just curious who you draw on. I know you mentioned one philosopher, but that would be Ade. Maybe if there's time later, I'll be going to point first to you.
The group, my group in particular, African American males, I started this study off with myself, you know, along with my perspective on the world and the space that I come from. Let's see, in terms of the scholars that I'm really diving into, in terms of using, Lewis R. Gordon in particular, I look at his scholarship, particularly his book on anti-Black racism, and he sort of compares it to Sartre's Being a Nothingness, particularly his notion, his philosophy on practicing bad faith. And then also a new scholar, a well-known scholar who goes by the name George Yancey, who has a book that just came out, I think this year. It's entitled Look, There's a White, in which he sort of brings into conversation Frantz Fanon's Black Skin, White Mask, and sort of analyzing the power of the white gaze. And so I take those, and also I kind of blend it in with the European scholars as well, like Sartre and Kierkegaard. But at the same time, I wrote a piece not too long ago that was published in Dr. Williams' journal, The Black Diaspora, in terms of looking at lynchings and the Black body in terms of lynchings as this space in which white male masculinity is constructed through lynched bodies. And so it's a part of it. I'm looking at it, I'm using it as part of one of my chapters within my dissertation. And so, like I said, it's everywhere. So is philosophy. Philosophy is everywhere, and it's so abstract. And thinking about double consciousness is so broad. I mean, people can argue that we have multiple consciousnesses, you know, in terms of being human beings. But my research in dealing with double consciousness, from an existential lens, I'm basically arguing that this is our way of existing within a racialized space, within a racialized world, within a world that Du Bois understood as a world that yields us no true self-consciousness, but only lets us see ourselves through the eyes of the other. And so, in that piece, a lot of times, a lot of scholars tend to forget to what does it mean, those eyes? How have we understood that gaze? You know, and this is where this is the most important piece of double consciousness, Du Bois's phenomenology, is that piece alone within that quote. And that's sort of the center of my dissertation or my scholarship. I want to understand that gaze. What does that really mean? And how we embody that gaze. Because a lot of times from a metaphysical perspective, because I also look at double consciousness from a metaphysical perspective in terms of asking this question, what is it that we're conscious of when we're conscious of ourselves? You know, when we objectify ourselves, because what we tend to forget, when you begin to look at yourself through the eyes of the other, you simultaneously objectify yourself. So you become the object within your own mind. So what is it that we understand when we objectify ourselves? What objects, what concepts do we use to define our identity? And like I said, I look at it from all perspectives, from a psychological perspective. Now I'm moving into this philosophical perspective, and I'm asking so many questions, but right now, it's like it runs through my mind all the time, so I gotta narrow it down to somewhere, you know. So yeah.